How much does a headshot cost? You might also say, what has that got to do with the price of fish, eggs, or cheese? Let me explain the differences you can expect from different priced headshots on the market today. This is all of the information you need to compare your expectations with a headshot photographer and how much you can expect to pay them. Hey, it's Laura here, and this is another episode of Moi TV. On this channel, you can expect the very best in branded headshots, ideas, and inspiration. And if you're into that, why don't you go ahead and hit the bell and subscribe so you are notified every single Friday when a new video drops. If you've always wondered why the headshots market is so diverse when it comes to price, and you're not sure who's taking the mick or who is actually offering fantastic value, by the end of this episode, you're gonna know what to look out for when you're doing your headshots photographer research. Here is how to seek out value and learn some secret ways on how you can save some money. I've had my own headshots photography business now for 8 years. Prior to this, I had a career in marketing and public relations. I've proven my high value position within the headshots market as a result of constantly leveling up as my skills and experience have grown. I have had so much fun putting together this episode of Moi TV. It turns out that where I come from here in the northeast of England, we say, what's that got to do with the price of fish? Now this makes sense given that I live near the coast and we have a very strong heritage in all things to do with the fishing industry. My grandma Minnie was a herring girl way back when. But when I pitched this episode to my team, Michelle, who was from Chicago, said, no, Laura, it's not fish, it's cheese. We say, what's that got to do with the price of cheese? So this prompted me to ask all of you guys on social media the same question. And you said, with extra comments, including it's tea here in New York City and it's eggs in South Africa. Who knew? Why don't you go ahead and comment below with what item you use when you use the phrase, what's that got to do with the price of... so we can learn a little bit more about this. I want to see how far this one can reach. You might be familiar with this diagram. It's just a really simple market pricing matrix. Those marketeers love a good diagram, don't they? We're going to begin with price on one axis and quality on the other. It's quite common to lay over these theoretical quadrants so you get a good understanding of who you're dealing with in each section of the market share. Today, I'm going to use this very simple diagram to show you the differences in my headshots photography industry. Let's begin by thinking about the baddies who are in the headshots photography world, the cowboys. It's true, I've worked for a couple of these kind of guys before when I was first getting started in my photography career. These are unqualified people who happen to own camera equipment. They try to pass themselves off as professional photographers. Today, I'm going to be calling this group the Sardine Cowboys. They don't actually deserve the title of photographer. You're probably going to find the Sardine Cowboy on the likes of Groupon or any other discounting app. Or conversely, they might be masters of hype and they have built up such a clever screen of smoke and mirrors that it's very easy to believe that they are actually fantastic professional photographers. They want to charge you a lot of money for incredibly poor work and a really bad customer service experience. With a Sardine Cowboy, you can expect lack of communication, never meeting agreed deadlines, holding your images to ransom, all the gear and swagger, but very little idea. Bad photos delivered to you late that don't meet the brief, and you're never going to be able to get a refund from them. I'm not going to give you any tips on how you work with a Sardine Cowboy because I highly recommend that you avoid them at all costs. Next up, the Smoked Mackerels. They place just about here on our pricing matrix diagram. Now we're inching our way up in the level of quality, as you can see from the diagram, but we're staying at a very low price. You can expect a student photographer to be operating on the same sort of level as a smoked mackerel. This is because they're not officially professional yet. they're still training. The smoked mackerel is in desperate need of experience because they want to practice all of the theory that they've been learning on their course at college or university. Because they lack in experience and knowing how to work with real life clients, it's very acceptable that they are unable to make you any solid guarantees when it comes to a level of service. Smoked mackerel expectations should include very little photographer crack or good bedside manner. Late delivery of images because they're also trying to meet a lot of tight college deadlines. Forgetting the battery for the camera, asking you for a reshoot because they fluffed on something technical, overworked post-production because of a lack of confidence in their newfound skills, and they're not going to be insured. My smoked mackerel tips include the following. If you genuinely have the time to spend on helping the smoked mackerel headshots photographer improve on their experience, then you can expect to pay very little money. That being said, it's still important that you cover the costs of their travel, buy them a meal, and give them some beer. These guys are students and they're really trying hard to build a professional business out in the big bad scary world. If you want to support the smoked mackerel, you should get in touch with your nearest art college and ask to speak to the head of the photography department. By building this level of communication up, you're also going to be in a great position to feedback your experience of working with that student smoked mackerel photographer to the same tutor when your shoot is finished. It's at this point that you might want to go ahead and subscribe to my Annals and Apertures newsletter. It's filled with lots of free advice and tips and inspirations when it comes to everything to do with headshots photography. You can go ahead and sign up with the link in the show notes or follow this link, pop your email in like this, and then subscribe. The frozen pollock photographer. A lot of professional photographers who are struggling in their business end up stuck and frozen stiff in this part of the market share, churning out all the different types of photography to try and keep their business busy, but they're using benchmarking on their pricing strategy and they're finding it's not working. Frankly, I know what this feels like. It's total Pollocks. Your frozen Pollock expectations can include a disjointed studio experience. Imagine you in your best professional suit in a studio, surrounded by baby toys and the slightest whiff of nappies on the air. A photographer who seems so stressed out and frazzled that really, instead of doing the shoot, you just want to sit down and give them a biscuit and a hug. Post-production with a really strange wedding feel to the colour wash. Delays in service delivery, feeling a little bit like you're on a conveyor belt. Loads of random upsells at the end of the service. This is where the photographer's desperately trying to make some money. My frozen Pollock photographer tips. Really, using this type of photographer is a false economy for both of you involved in the transaction. You're perpetuating this poor photographer's misery of being overworked and underpaid. And the quality of your headshots is not going to be up to scratch, which will make the return on your small investment not very good at all. Meet the fresh salmon headshots photographer. Okay, I know this is smoked salmon, but I don't even eat salmon, so this is the best I can do. As soon as you look at hiring a specific type of photographer, your expectations can dramatically increase. Professional headshots photographers will shoot only professional headshots photography, and they're going to be highly skilled on knowing how to deliver a service that meets your needs exactly. They're also going to know how to make sure your headshots perform to meet your aspirations. Fresh salmon expectations. A headshot service that genuinely feels delightful from start to finish. Expert planning and consultancy before shoot day even comes around. A fresh salmon headshots photographer really knows that they need to take the time to meet your expectations and deliver headshots that perform really well against your aspirations in business and your career right now. A shoot experience that makes you feel like a rock star, with that expert editorial guidance on how to pose when you're on your rockstar shoot experience. posing knowledge that conveys your brand message. Images that are delivered in line with all of your industry standards and needs. And a connected photographer who's going to want to put you in touch with people who can genuinely support you in your career. My fresh salmon photographer tips. As your investment in the fresh salmon headshots photographer is going to be higher, I always recommend that you invest the time to go and meet with 2 or 3 different photographers before you go ahead and make a booking. Really get a gut feel on how much you like this salmon and how much you feel this salmon genuinely understands your needs. In your pre-shoot consultancy, you can expect to plan out how you're going to maximize your headshots return on investment with your photographer or as a result of having a great pre-shoot meeting with them. Now you know the subtle differences in the headshots photography market, and you know what that's got to do with the price of fish. I'll see you next time. Mwah.